recording for the
It
camera.
would be quicker.
So it would record a false reading. And no allowance is made for that, and 1K wouldn't fix that problem.
Right. Well, that's a very valid point. Do you have an opinion on the boat people issue that's affecting Western Australia?
Yes.
They're
invaders.
They're invaders.
Yes.
Do you think that they're being brought down here by organised crime and maybe higher figures, higher authorities?
Why don't you try the federal government to use against us? That's my opinion. It's the opinion of a lot of people.
Some people believe that they are being brought down here to foster in a republic.
I believe that's completely it. If the more people they bring here, the more money they pour into their pockets, the more they're going to vote for the donkeys who bring them in.
Yeah.
And they will vote according to their will. Yeah. My opinion is if they've got a problem in their country, Australia wants to help them, let them go to Christmas Island, train them up in warfare and put them back in their own country so they can take their own country back. Why put them here? We don't have enough food. They're talking about so-called global warming. I'm not getting into that rubbish because that's all it is. But if we have not enough food, not enough water like they're claiming,
well,
not enough
55,000 homeless in Australia, in WA at the moment.
That's correct. A lot of the money they're wasting on the boat people could stop them being homeless. And what about the Aboriginal people that are living in poverty?
Squalor, that's
and why aren't they getting help like these boat people? They come in here, they get massive amounts of money given to them. I mean, whereas I don't have figures, I see the end result of what they're given.
You're aware of what's going on.
I'm aware of what's going on. Why can't that money be given to the Aboriginal people and all the homeless people in this country? They belong here. Fix your own problems first. Charity belongs here. It starts here. Australians are noted, especially Western Australians, to be the most generous people in the world. If the government had stopped ripping us off and pocketing the money and giving it to countries who are really our enemies, and put it into our own country, we'll give the excess where we think it should be. It is our money. The Constitution states quite clearly that all money in excess of the federal government's debts must be returned to the states in relation to head of population. Who the heck gives them the right to give it to Indonesia, China and all these other countries? They just gave 23 million or something to Malaysia. I've got no problem with Malaysia getting some assistance, but what about the rich people there giving to their own people? They don't. Why would we give $23 million or whatever it was, a rip-off amount, to them to build schools when we haven't got enough schools?
Yes,
we haven't got enough places for our own kids. We've got university students paying off loans for years to come when our education should be free, including universities. Why not? If we can afford to give money to other countries for schools,
well, we can't
put it into our own people.
Because it just increases our debt.
Of course it does. Well, no, the proposed debt.
It's supposed debt.
Supposed debt, yeah.
Well, we'll move on. You've heard of Larry Hannigan's Voice of the Constitution, which is on the internet.
Yes.
Would you say that the explanation of the Australian Constitution in that recording is fairly accurate?
Yeah, pretty accurate.
Is there anything you'd like to comment about that? I think he's done a wonderful job.
I think he's done a fantastic job. I know the person who assisted in putting it together, and yeah, it's a good job. It's good to get it out there so people understand where the heritage comes from.
And some people won't read the Constitution anyway because they find it too heavy or complicated to understand.
Well, it depends which one they read.
At least that's getting out through, you know, the digital media.
Yeah, I understand.
You can just drop it in a car CD player and play it while you're going along.
Yeah, you can. And to a lot of people, that's the only way you're going to get it to. But see, we used to have the Constitution taught in our schools until Gough Whitlam thought it was a good idea that we don't have it anymore. Well, probably why let the people know what their rights are? Take them off them when they don't know. So through the years, our kids have been dumbed down towards the Constitution, and in universities they only teach the sections of the Constitution that they want to teach, albeit with their slant, which is really bent and totally wrong. Why not teach the whole lot in school? Why isn't it a subject in school? It's a
Whatever.
very... You go to America, they know their constitution. You come here and they say, oh, duh, what's that?
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you could say that about the Magna Carta and habeas corpus and...
Yeah, well, if you
Here
go
relax.
into section 52 of the Constitution, Magna Carta is part of it.
Mm.
I like section 61. It says we can go and wipe these donkeys out that are taking our country. I love that part. That's good.
So what you're virtually saying is that we've been invaded by a foreign entity,
We have been invaded by a corporate entity,
a corporate entity,
and that is the
and
World Banking.
and it's taken over.
Exactly, the World Banking Corporation,
Right.
and they're taking it over because they want a global corporation
Yes.
as a one world government, and they can lie all they like, but that is a fact.
So, just in reference to that, because this is going on air at a meeting in Northern regarding the boat people,
Yep.
I've lost my train of thought there just momentarily. We'll come back to that. On to the next question. Recently you served a writ of mandamus in the High Court of Australia. Was that on the judiciary or the Australian federal government?
First, I'll explain what a writ of mandamus is. It is a prerogative writ issued from the King's Bench, and it is a right for the sovereign people to issue that writ under 75(5) of the Federal Constitution. Now, a part or a portion of the High Court is the King's Bench that rises up out of the High Court, above it, above maritime law, admiralty law and all other law in this country. It is effective immediately, and the reason we, and I say we because it comes from a large group of us, I had a hand in putting together the documents, but we all did it from Western Australia and South Australia, New South Wales and Victoria, and a gentleman from Queensland, and I'm not going to name the people. We had Dr. Sir John Walsh of Brunor, a leading barrister in this country. He, along with 5 or 6 other people, I don't know the exact number, put this writ that we prepared into the High Court, and it was accepted by Chief Justice Robert French. Now, that writ demands that the federal government stands down immediately from the corporation of the Commonwealth of Australia, folds up all its corporate states, or its companies that they call states, they're all subsidiary companies of the Commonwealth, and returns back to the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia of 1901. The reason we did that, because they have, as a corporation, the sovereign entities. They have usurped authority over the Australian people. They've committed an act of high treason against the Australian people. Now, we haven't alleged treason, we haven't suggested treason, we have put the facts to the High Court, and they've accepted the writ on its face value as a writ to alter the corporation, remove it, and put us back under the Constitution where it belongs.
Right.
And it is done, and it has been done for all Australians, to give us back ownership of our own country, which was stolen off us by the unlawful corporation called the Commonwealth of Australia government.
Right. Okay.
They are a legislature, not a government.
Right.
So understand the difference, and that needs explaining. The Commonwealth of Australia, the government for the Commonwealth, is the Governor-General and an executive which he, not she, he selects out of the federal parliament, and the states, the governor and an executive they select out of each House of Parliament. That is the actual government.
So that's like a cabinet,
That is the cabinet.
not the cabinet we...
No, the cabinet we have is a pack of lying fraudsters.
Right.
They are the legislature. They only have the authority to pass laws for the good government. Now, the procedure for passing laws, it goes to the lower house, then the upper house, then it must go to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He must weigh it up against the Constitution. If it complies, he has 14 days to do it, sign it and give it back to the Governor. The Governor stamps it with a royal identifier, which is Lion of Judah and the unicorn and the crown and the shield in it.